Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. So we're going to have a look at the mighty Thunderstruck as voted for by the members of the Facebook group. So before we get into today's lesson, there's a full tab of this available that you can download for free. There's a whole host of links in the description. You can either join this Facebook group and head to the files section, it's completely for free, or the second link you can join the email list and you get a weekly email with all the tabs for that week. I am currently working on an archive as well, which should be coming in the next week or so, so be patient, it's coming. Now the approach that I've taken to this lesson is, there's lots of guitars laid on top of each other and there's lots of cool parts. What I've done is, in this transcription, it's a 5-page PDF that I advise that you get hold of and you work on along with me in this video. I've taken the approach of all the cool bits, and if there was only one guitar player on the gig, these are the bits that you'd want to play, okay? And I've got everything from both solos to a little bit of rhythm work, and then obviously the riffs that everybody wants to play. So with all that said, let's get into today's class. Let's get some headway on the music first, and then we'll talk about tones at the back end of the video. Use the chapters feature in this video to get what you need out of today's class, okay? Right then, so what we're going to look at first, I'm going to break it down into chunks. We've got this bit to start with, which looks quite complex, but actually there's not that much to write home about really. We'll break that down in a second, but what I want to do is just show you what the whole thing sounds like, and then we'll break it down into chunks. So we've got. So that section's repeated twice. Now I know it is played a lot quicker, but if I play it any faster, you won't be able to tell what I'm doing. So what we're going to do, I want you to think of these notes here. There's like two riffs that we're breaking it down into, and we've got 4 notes, like a 4-note sequence that's just repeated in what we call semiquavers. 1 E-ander, 2 E-ander, 3 E-ander, 4 E-ander. So let's just worry about these first 4 notes here. Now, it's all on the B string. I'd like you to press the 4th fret of the B for me, please, with your index finger. And then I'd like you to play that with a downstroke, and then with an upstroke, let go and play the open string. Then I like to use my ring finger for the 7th fret. You can use your pinky if you want, but to be honest, I have more control over my ring finger, and I won't tell you off for using your ring finger either. And we're going to play the 7th fret of the same string with a downstroke. And then I'm going to do an upstroke on the open string. So you've 4, 0, 7, 0. That's your sequence, but the crux to this is down and up picking. You see how my plectrum's doing this? Now, you'll see on the video particularly, he's doing hammer-ons and pull-offs. If you listen to the record, you can clearly hear that he's picking it. So I'm going to teach you how to do it, how he's doing on the record. I think it's all showboat in that song. It looks really cool, but it doesn't sound like the record when you play it like that. So that's why I'm showing you this way. Okay, so get that under your fingers for me. This is the first bit of the first riff. Now you're going to repeat this twice before it moves. Now if you've got the PDF, this is the very top line that we're working on here, okay? Moving on to the second line, the whole thing gets moved up from 4 to 7 to 5 to 8. We do what we call an elbow transposition. You can kick it up a fret, and the principle's still the same. It's a 4-note recurring phrase, but we're going 5, 0, 8, 0. Compare this to this. Same sequence, same amount of notes. We're literally just going from here to here. We're doing what we call a position shift. We're going from 4th position to 5th position. Now we're going to play each of those licks twice. Now don't worry about this little intro bit here. We'll tackle this in a second. But what I want you to see is, can you see how we've 2 bars of the first riff that I showed you? And then bottom left and bottom right, bottom 2 bars is the second riff that I've showed you. I'm going to play from here, show you what it sounds like, and then we'll talk about this. repeat. That's what those funny brackets mean. Now this little zero here, that's called a lead-in. Sometimes we come across something called a lead-in. A lead-in's just like, it's a note to just kind of get you going, if that makes sense. Now for this riff to sort of for it to make sense, it doesn't sound right if you start it on that 4th fret. Once you get going, you kind of forget about it, but you can hear that on the record, there's just the hi-hat and Angus playing that riff at the start, okay? You can hear that Angus plays that open B string once before the hi-hat comes in. The two cymbals stacked on top of each other on a drum kit. So I want you, just to sort of get going, I want you to play that open string just as its own thing. And you only do it at the beginning. Now I'm doing this quite slowly, but I mean what we're aiming for. I mean I even struggle some days to keep up with Angus doing it. Now, look at my plectrum. I am not missing a beat. Down, up, down, up, down, up. This is a fantastic alternate picking exercise. And that's the sort of thing that you could quite easily practice at home on the couch. With an electric guitar not plugged in, and it's really going to work on that fine micro movement. So that's the first riff that takes you through the first 2 lines of the PDF. That riff everybody thinks is Thunderstruck, but it only occupies 8 bars of the piece. Actually, the riff that comes after it, which is on the 3rd line of the PDF, which I've labelled riff number 2, which looks like this, is actually the one that he spends most of his time doing. And if we've ever got any kind of breathing room in this piece, this riff's what we're playing. And it's very similar, but it's like a descending, it's still semiquavers, 1-eander, 2-eander, 3-eander, 4-eander, but we're moving down the neck to create this. Now, excuse me, let me slow that right down. You see how it sort of goes down, comes up a bit, goes down, comes back up a bit. So let's break it down into chunks. So I'll just do this a bar at a time. Now really, you need to make a strong cup of tea, preferably Yorkshire tea, and go through this with a pencil. And once you start seeing the patterns, it starts to make a lot more sense. Don't just look at it as numbers. Like I urge you to download the PDF and get a pencil and work out not only like patterns and recurring bits, but also like what notes they're playing. You know, these sheets are meant to be downloaded and scribbled on. Please do take everything that you can from my lessons here on YouTube. So I'm using predominantly my ring finger, middle and index for this. Now I've been playing this for so long I had to think about that for a second. I'm playing the 12th fret with my ring finger, with a downstroke, open string with an upstroke. And can you see the theme that all the open strings are upstrokes? So we've got 12, O, 10, O, 9, O, 10, O. Let's work in groups of 8. 12, 10, 9, 10. Can you see how I'll use my ring finger, index, and then when I come back on myself, I use my middle. I'm watching this in the viewfinder and it's confusing me. After I've done that, I'm then going to use predominantly my index finger. Can you see how I sort of, it all depends whether I'm going a fret apart or 2 frets apart. 12, O, 10, O, 9, O, 10, O, and then I'm going to use my index finger to go 9, O, 7, O. Now that I've got to go back up to 9, my ring finger's already there, I'm looking here. Yeah? I'm using my ring finger because there's no point, it's wasted energy is that. So I'll play that 9th fret with my ring finger, open, and then I'm going to go down to the 5th fret, which means I've got to do a hell of a jump down here. So I'm going to catch that with my index finger. Let's keep that moving. Again, ring finger comes in on the 7, O, And then I'm going to spend quite a bit of time going 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4. Watch how many times you do this, okay? Because you've got to, once you hear the tune in your head, I'm humming, I'm humming that tune in my head as I play. So I'm not necessarily counting how many of these 4 and 5s that I'm playing. You want to go back to that 5, but you finish on the 4 and the 0, and then as you pluck that 0 at the very end here, you're going to go all the way back up. Now, can you see how we do this 10 times? That's what both bars look like glued together. Practice that, get that under your fingers. You're going to spend most of your time playing this. It comes up again and again and again. Now, I've sort of called the bit at the beginning Riff 1, this is Riff 2, and this occupies pretty much the vast majority of the verses or the kind of quieter sections of the song. Moving on. So yeah, we've done those. So moving on, we've got what I've called the thunder part. Now this is Malcolm Young's part, but I figured rather than us sitting on that, because can you see in the previous slide, we do that 10 times. We do that for quite a while. They say thunder quite a lot in this intro. That thunder that I've quoted is when Brian Johnson comes in and says it, and it's significantly louder than the backing singers, okay? And I'm just going to do this for 8 bars, more to give my wrist a rest than anything else, before we get into what I've labelled verse 1. So we're looking at the 4th line of the first page of the PDF. Now, it's a bit of a funny rhythm, is this, and you're going to... I'd argue you spend as much time trying to get this under your fingers as you will the fiddly bit. And if you're not really getting anywhere with it, just play the... and it'll sound fine. So you've got... Watch my plectrum. Now I'm just thinking da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I've tried to tab it out as best I can here. The rhythm is correct, but I don't know. It depends on the kind of learner you are. If I can hear a rhythm and a rough kind of guide of what are downs and what are ups, I can pick out most things. I've always been like that. Whereas some people need to know the nuts and bolts of it. So that's why I've put all the quavers and semiquavers down there. So it's all based around a B5 power chord, which is second fret of the A string, 4th fret of the D, 4th fret of the G. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of doing this, looking at the first 3 notes of this bar. In fact, let me do this, that's better. So looking at the first 3 notes, I'm going down, up, down, and I'm palm muting it. Down, up, down, down. Down, up, down, down. Down, up, up, down, up, down. So basically, whenever I've got the A string in there, I'm doing a downstroke, and whenever I've got the 4s stacked on top of each other, I'm doing that with an upstroke. You'll find your way with that. Even if you're really struggling with that, you can set on that B5 chord and just do quavers. Scale that to wherever you're at. It's not there's far more important parts in this song than that little bit. So we're going to continue with some power chords now. This is what we're going to. This is the next section. We're still on the first page of the PDF. We're just at the bottom of the page before we move on to the second page, and you've got. That's what we're going to try and break down. So we're going to start with that B5 power chord that we did the... we're going to play that, which is 2nd fret on the A, 4th fret on the D, 4th fret on the G. I'm then going to move to an A5 chord, which is open A, 2nd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the of the G. And then I'm going to move that all up a string to 0, 2, 2 on the low E string to create E5. So it's B, A, E. Now you see this funny looking squiggle here? This is called a rest. So that means that as soon as you've played that E chord, you see over here I touch the strings of the guitar to stop it ringing out. We want a really short, sharp kind of stop. Moving into the second bar, we're going to play the A chord. We're going to do that twice, followed by an E5 and then stopping it again. A, E. So you've got B, A, E, A, E. Can you see how it's just repeated? These two bars that I've just taught you through here are repeated here, and I don't know if you can see it either side of the tab. Look, there's these funny looking brackets called repeat markers. So what that means is you're going to do this twice. You can do the whole 4-bar phrase twice before you move on. Coming up after this, you've got 2 bars at the bottom of the first page of the PDF, where I've just put 2 bars of rest. There's nothing in it at all, and the reason that I've done that is you can hear one of the guitars is still doing the. I'm just going to give yourself a little bit of breathing room before you move on to the next bit, and I feel like in a single, when I go out and play gigs and I'm the only guitarist on the gig, sometimes even though there's loads of great guitar parts, sometimes I've just kind of got to let it breathe, otherwise I'm just making loads of noise for 4 or 5 minutes or however long the song lasts. And sometimes just giving yourself a couple of bars just to sort of compose yourself, and nobody will really notice it misses because the song naturally kind of dips at that point. So then moving into the top of page 2, now I'm not going to break these down on screen because we've already spoken about them. So page 2. We go back to riff 2. You do that 10 times, followed by this. This is and I'm shaking at the knees. It's that bit. So it's very similar to the part that we've just broken down, but it's ever so slightly different. So we're just using the same 3 chords. It's the same 3 chords more or less throughout. There is a D chord that comes up in the chorus, actually, come to think of it. But we're going to play B, A, E, and then do a definite stop. Can you see how there's loads of rests here? And what I'm trying to encourage you to do is I'm trying to encourage you to stop touching the guitar, to touch the guitar, sorry, to stop it from ringing out. So you'll go B, A, E, stop, 2, 3, 4. Now can you see how this bar here and this bar here are identical? This bar, we have like a cheeky little A that comes in before. Now obviously we're playing something else before this section starts. We're currently on the second line of the second page. So you're going to play B, A, E, you're going to do a rest, and then on beat 4 of the bar you're going to play this cheeky little A chord before repeating the same sequence again. Can you see how this bar is exactly the same as this bar? Over here, can you see how that cheeky little A comes back again? Before I look at the bottom line here, bottom left I'm looking, back to B, A, E. It's just a recurring pattern 4 times. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 2. Bottom line. Now, I'm looking bottom right now. After you've played that final B, A and E, the whole band should stop and you should hear Brian Johnson saying, "You've been thunderstruck." That's where that should come in there. Pause that and get that under your fingers. We're moving on to the chorus next. Now the chorus, I'm looking at the second page, 4th line down. Very similar to what we've spoken about already, but the introduction of a D5 chord and an open E string, which kind of adds a little bit of definition to it. So we're going to play a B5 for a beat and a half, an A5 for a beat and a half. These are all downstrokes, by the way. I'm then going to play a D5, which is basically a D chord, but we don't play the top note. So I've still got the 2nd fret of the G and 3rd fret of the B, but I'm not playing the high E string, and that creates a power chord. On the way out of that to the next chord with an upstroke, I'm going to catch the low E string, which gives you this. You see how I just caught it with an upstroke? I'm doing everything else with downstrokes. B, A, D, open. And can you see how I'm catching it on the offbeat? And then I'm going to finish with an A5, E5. Pause the video and get that on D fingers, but again, can you see, well, everything's backwards on this. Repeat markers again. That chorus, we're going to repeat that twice before moving on to the next section. So you notice how it's kind of, you know, coming up after that. Let me just see what we've got next in the slides. Yeah, okay, we've got the link to the solo. So looking at that, after your chorus, you're going to play the riff twice as a bit of a bridge. You're going to play that twice before what I call the link that takes you up to the solo. Now, other than the solos, we've learned there's like 4 main parts, isn't there? You think about it, there's the beginning bit, what I'm calling riff 1, riff 2, which we've seen already has come back 3 or 4 times, if not 5 times since. You've got the... I think of these songs as stitching like 5 or 6 sections together. The tabs are here to help you, but really I've been practicing this sort of... I've memorised the sections and learnt the structure. Anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent that I don't need to do. We're looking at the bottom of the second page now. This is just before the guitar solo, and it's called the link. Now, again, this is carrying out throughout. I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, because if I played this, I've yet to play this with a band. I'd absolutely love to play it with a band. But if I was in that scenario, I would put this link in before the solo, not only to give myself some time to get ready for it, but also it just saves me playing the same thing. Now, it'd be really easy for me to tell you just to carry on playing that riff, when actually I can hear there's a couple of double-track guitars play the... And I'm shaking at the knees. Can I come again, please? It's that bit before, which we're going to break down in 20 seconds. It's a B5 power chord. I then take the 4th frets off, and I'm barring the 2 second frets on the D and the G to create this. It creates an A power chord. It's like the top half of an A5. And these, I call these washing lines. What this means is you're going to strike this B5 chord, and you're just going to let it ring out for not only the remainder of the bar, but it actually bleeds over into the next bar. That's why those notes are in brackets. So you're only going to play da da da, and you let it ring out for it all. 1, 2, 3, 4 repeat markers, so you do it again. Now, I don't know if you saw the post that I put on the Facebook group of me practicing this earlier this week. I'll cut this on the second time short to put in a big fat slide to go to the next section. Salt and pepper to taste, completely at your discretion. So we're going to start talking about solos now. The remainder of this lesson is the 2 guitar solos. The first one's a little bit more prominent than the second one. The second one's very kind of improvised and sort of just off the cuff, but I've learned how to play it how Angus is doing on the record. Now, I think this would be a really good point, if you feel like you've got enough here, this is a really good point to sort of pause the video and get all that on D fingers. If you're ready for the guitar solo, let's get into it. So, I've broken this up. This is this takes up pretty much the entire 3rd page of the PDF. So let me just show you each section. I've broken down the lead parts into 5 chunks. So you've got this bit, this bit, this is the 2nd line of the 3rd page, 3rd line of the 3rd page, 4th line of the 3rd page, 5th line of the 3rd page. Now, it looks like there's a lot more than there actually is. It didn't actually take me that long to get it under my fingers. Angus Young's really interesting. It's kind of a mix of rock and blues and everything in between. And I think everybody, regardless of whether you're into ACDC or not, can learn something solo-wise from Angus Young, because just the mileage he gets out of the minor pentatonic scale is insane. So I'm going to start by barring the 9th fret of both the G and the B string, and I'm going to play that twice. Now I'm using my index finger, even though we're travelling this way, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm using my index finger for the 9s, and I'm going down and up, followed by a downstroke on the 9th fret of the D string. Now this is going to seem a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm going to come out and play the 9th fret of the A string with my ring finger. Now, I'm guilty of sliding into that 9. He's not doing it on the record, it just feels good, so I'm going to leave it in. 9, 9, 9. I didn't mean to do a pinch harmonic, that sounded pretty good. We're going to talk about tones in a second as well, so sit tight for those of you that want to sound like I do. After I've played that 9th fret of the A string, I'm going to use my index finger to play the 7th fret of the D string. And can you see how there's a quarter bend? Now, if any of you watch the podcast, you'll know we call these tweaks. You're bending it just out of tune ever so slightly, and Angus does loads of this, and he's an absolute master at it. And you see, we've got another washing line and another note in brackets. So what that means is we're going to play that note, and we're just going to kind of tweak it out a little bit and let it sustain and carry over into the next bar. So you've got going from the beginning. Yeah, I'm just kind of tweaking it. Try not to bend it too far. I'm then going to hammer between 7 and 9 on the G string, and then I'm going to play that 9 on the G again and bend it. Now this 7th fret here on the B string is part of the next slide, okay? So we're just going to temporarily ignore that, we'll come back to it in a second. Pause that, get it under your fingers. Remember, 7th fret of the B string, because that's going to carry over. It's a lovely lick. We're in the key of B minor, by the way. I should probably tell you that's shape 1 minor pentatonic. So I've just played the 7th fret of the B string from the previous slide. I'm then going to rock my index finger over for the 7th fret of the high E, ring finger on the 10 of the B, 7th fret of the B, ring finger on the 9th fret of the G. Just walking down the scale. Then I'm going to play the 7th fret of the B and then rock it back to the 7th fret of the G. And again, I'm sort of that note. I'm just bending it out of tune ever so slightly. And then I go back to the root note, the B note on the 9th fret of the D string. It's a lovely lick. Practice that, get that under your fingers. Moving on, we're going to slide with his ring finger between 7 and 9. That's probably where I've got it from actually for the beginning. It sounds pretty good. Index finger on the 7th fret of the D string, again tweaking it out of tune. And you see this little X over here. After I've bent the note for the required amount of time, I'm going to just relieve the pressure with this hand to mute the string. And I'm going to pluck it again to do like a bit of a percussive note. That's kind of salt and pepper to taste, is that. Angus is doing it and I keep it in, it feels good, so I'm going to put it there. And then as soon as you've played that little dead note, you're going to play the 9th fret with the ring finger on the D string. Again, this 9th fret, we're just going to ignore him for a second. We'll come back to him in a second because he's part of the next lick. And all the time, guys, whenever you've got time to do vibrato, please do. Well worth your time. Okay, pause the video, get that under your fingers. That's the second line of the 3rd page. We're moving on to the 3rd line of the 3rd page. But remember, this fella, he's coming in now. We're going to do the 9th fret. We're going to bend the 9th fret of the G string, a full tone, and we're going to do 7th fret of the high E to reciprocate that. Now, there's this cool little kind of groovy lick that sits on the G string. So I'm going to play 9, 7, 9. 9, 7, I'm going to bend the 9 and then I'm going to play 9, 7 again. Really, really like vocal style led lick. Then I'm going to walk down like almost this mini arpeggio going 7, 9, 7, 9, 9. 7 with the index finger, 9, 9 with the ring finger rocking it. 7th fret of the G, I'm going to bend it back, because it's the index finger, instead of bending up, I'm going to bend down, just because of where I am. and then bring it back to pitch really quickly. Really, really cool lick. The more I play with this solo, the more I like it. Moving into the second bar, we're going to rock between the ring finger for those nines. Da 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 da. Look at the semiquavers and the quavers. 9 9 9. Tweak the 7 back to the root. Now I've put open strings here because I can hear him let go. That's a bit like the mute that comes after it. It's extracurricular. If you did it in a gig scenario and you missed it, nobody would pick up on it, but it's one of those finer details that really sort of separates intermediate from advanced guitarists. Okay, so all I'm doing there is I'm not doing this, but I'm just kind of catching the string to get ready for the next lick. Pause that and get that under your fingers. Just as before, there's a common theme here. This 17 ties into the fourth line of the third page, so I'm going all the way up to the dusty end, and it does get even. Your fingers will get even dustier. We're going all the way up to the 22nd fret later on in the video, so we'll. Yeah, I hope your calluses are in good fettle. We're going to bend that 17th fret of the high E. And can you see how there's a tied note? That you don't have to pick that note again. It's coming from the previous note. So you're going to bend that 17, and then you're going to play 17 unbent. That's very good grammar, isn't it? Not bent to 14. Then you're going to go to the 17th fret of the B string. You're going to bend it, and then you're going to bring it back down quietly and pull off between 17 and 15. So we're here. Now this, you kind of need 5 fingers to play this. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to bend that 17, and then with my with my pinky, I'm going to catch the 17th fret of the string above it. Now there's nothing new there. But then what I've got to do is, I've got to keep... I can't do it now, you're all watching me. You see how I have to get... at this point, I'm bending the 17th fret of the B with the ring finger. I'm catching the 17th fret of the high E with the pinky, and then I've got my index finger on the 14th fret of the high E to get the... Spent ages trying to find another way of doing this, and I'm pretty sure this is how he's doing it. If you know otherwise, please let me know in the comments. Then we're going to play 17, 14, 17 of the B, 15, 16, and we're going to bend that up. It's a bit of a funky lick, is that? It took me a while to get under my fingers. So yeah, do with that what you will. So that's kind of the last bit of the first solo, and then we get into the vocals come back in here, and we've got this like B5, and then we let go with the ring finger, and then you hear everybody go da 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 da. We're gonna play that. Let me play the whole thing and then I'll break it down. Now what I'm doing here is I'm mixing Malcolm and Angus's parts. As they're the only guitar player on the gig, sometimes you've got to try and wear both hats. So I'm doing the rhythm bit at the bottom, and then I imagine how you'd see this with this when ACDC play. I've yet to see them live. I would like to go see them in the not too distant future before I'm not able to. The way that I kind of envision that looking is Malcolm, when he was here, would play that at one side of the stage, would play the... and then you'd have Angus on the other side. And what you get is you get this sort of panning, this sort of ping pong of rhythm and lead, rhythm and lead. Now we're trying to do both at the same time. So let's talk about these chords here. We've got a B5 chord, fret 2, fret 4 on the A, the D and the G strings. I'm going to play that chord, and then I'm going to let go with the index finger to make it 0, 4, 4. And can you see how there's like a little arrow above this? That's called an accent. And what that means is I just want you to smack it a little bit harder. Now you see how there's a rest immediately after. As soon as you've smacked that note, I want you to touch the strings of the guitar to stop it from resonating. And while you're using that time I want you to mute with your picking hand. You're going to take this hand and you're going to go all the way up. Now I'm thinking first position of the minor pentatonic in B minor. I've loads of lessons on pentatonic stuff if you want to check those out. I'm playing the 9th fret of the D. It's the root note. It's a B. And I'm going 9, 7 on the G, 9. Da da da. Then I'm going to go to the 7th fret of the G, and I'm going to put a bit of vibrato on it. That's what that little wiggle above it here means. 9, 7. I'm going to bend the 9 again over here. Now a lot of people will miss this. Can you see how the rhythm's different underneath these two notes? This pull off between the 9 and the 7 on the G. I want you to pull off between those notes really fast and resolve to the root note on the 9th fret of the D string. Whole thing. And it'll do that 4 times. Now, moving on from there, we've just got a couple of parts that we're kind of all going up to the solo / final chorus at the end. We're kind of at the 4-minute mark-ish, maybe 4.5 minutes now. We've been here for quite a while. Now, we're going to go to riff 2, and it's only going to play it the once after you've done the... It's a bit of a transition, and you'll get there. If you practice it. That's more just like a placeholder. Rather than sort of having a little bit of a gap where we didn't play anything like I did last time, I opted to put that in this time because actually that's the only thing that's happening on the record, and Angus is quite clearly doing it. And following that, we have another big chorus. Nothing new here. We've already discussed that. That's currently, where are we? We are currently at the top of page 4. We're at the top of page 4. Let me just put that like that, actually. He says. It's all live here, folks. It's all professional. Top of page 4. And then it goes back to the riff for 4 more times. Now, I don't want to spend too much time here. We've already kind of discussed all those parts. We're going to get ready to do the last chorus starting on the 3rd line of the 4th page. Before we do that though, because there's it's got some pretty heavy sort of lead guitar parts, I just want to talk about tones. So Angus famously used, I'm looking at the image on the left hand side, Angus famously used a Gibson SG into a Marshall Plexi style amplifier, and then with a preamp which was derived from his wireless. Now, you also see my settings. I'm using a Generation 3 Boss Katana that Boss kindly sent to us. I've got it on the crunch setting, not loads and loads of gain, lots of mid, lots of treble, and not a lot of bass. A little bit of reverb. Use your reverb sparingly. Now, what I find about learning to play ACDC songs and teaching lots of people how to play ACDC songs. James, why aren't you using this Marshall? Because it's broken. So it's just an expensive ornament at the minute. I will get it fixed. I had to use my SG. I mean, it's the right colour and everything. I'm a massive ACDC fan. I've been for a long time. And this was the first kind of like really good quality and brand new guitar that I ever bought. So I think I've had it for nearly 10 years. Angus did use in the early days what they call the SGs with the batwing pickguard. This bigger pickguard is called a batwing pickguard, and that was really important to me. That's what I wanted. I think it's the coolest model. This is just an SG standard from 2016. Now, famously, Angus used... lots of people don't use... They use too much distortion, too much overdrive, too much gain. The sound of ACDC is lots and lots of Marshalls that are very, very, very loud. And he has no pedals, no nothing. He has that little bit of a preamp that I showed you there. Where is it? There. See that little box in between the amplifier and the guitar? Now that, from the research, let me know in the comments if you know differently, but from my research, it tells me that it's a preamp that came from the wireless unit that he was using for the big stadium gigs, and it added a little bit more gain. Now, AC/DC, a lot of people use, it's loud and slightly overdriven, but the key factor is loud. So whatever you think kind of sounds good in the room, use your back pickup, plenty of mid frequencies, and just don't overdo it with the overdrive. You should be able to hear. I don't know if you can tell. You should be able to hear the clarity of your high E and your B strings in chords. You think of the famous. You think of all those. I'm going to embarrass myself. If I turn the distortion up too much, it just turns to mush and doesn't sound anything like it. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. Let's get back to this solo. Okay, home stretch now. So there's two ways that you can go from here. I'm on the 4th page, starting on what's labelled the chorus on the 3rd line down. Now, you can either play the chords for the chorus like we've done for the whole song, and you just sort of repeat a part that I've previously tabbed out. Or you can have a go at the sort of embellishments which Angus Young's doing to the rest of the band, which I've done my best to notate. Some of the parts are really, really buried in the mix, and there might be the odd note here or there. I've done my best to try and get something serviceable. My approach here, I would probably take some ideas from what Angus is doing, and I would probably be improvising in the key of B minor using pentatonic scales from this point. If you've got a finite amount of time, if you're working on the Feedback Fridays that we do for the on the Facebook group, I'd much rather you put that energy into the first solo rather than this one and you just improvise that one. Or if you're a real stickler for details and you want to do it, this is what I want you to play. Okay, so this is spread out over half a dozen slides, and it's just a load of licks that are that happen in 2-bar chunks that sort of embellish what the rest of the band's doing. So here's the first lick. I really like this one. So I'm using my middle finger on the 16th fret of the G string. I'm then using my index finger on the 15th fret of the B string, and I'm doing a little tweak. You see how it says a quarter bend? Ring finger on the 17th fret, and then I retrace my steps. And you see how there's ties here to this note, which means that we're going to hang on to it. We don't have to play it a second time here. Maybe put a bit of vibrato on it, why not? Treat yourself. It's Friday after all. This tweak is really easy to forget about. You might see me play it occasionally and I forget to do it. But it does add that sort of third dimension. So that's lick number 1. Lick number 2, this is a lovely lick. I'm gonna pinch this. It's got all the sort of hallmarks of Angus Young, but I just wouldn't expect him to play something like this. So I'm going to bend with my ring finger the 17th fret of the B string. I'm then going to play the 15th fret with my index finger, same string, and then I'm going to take that same finger again, same string, and move it down to the 12th fret. I'm doing a lot of work with this index finger, but you'll see why in a second. I'm then going to take that to the 14th fret of the same string and bend it half a step. So I'm bending that 14th fret, I'm bending that C sharp up to a D, and then I go up to the G string and I pull off between 16 and 14 and go back to that 16th fret there, which is a root. Lovely lick. So far you've got... See, I forgot that bend. I told you I'd forget it. This is another great one. We're gonna go up to the next position of the scale. We're gonna bend the 19th fret a tone and a half. So you really got to be pushing those strings with 2 fingers, guys. So I bend it up the equivalent of 3 frets, and then I bring it back down to the pitch it's supposed to be, and I walk down chromatically with using my ring finger, middle finger, and index to create this. And it's in quaver triplets, by the way. I don't know if you can see at the bottom of the slide. Lovely lick. I'm then going to round that off by going to the 19th fret of the string above with the ring finger, and then 16th fret of the same string with my index. I'm then going to do a position shift back down here, ring finger on the 15th fret. I'm going to bend it twice and then play it as just a regular D note with no bends on beats 3 and 4. White balance on my camera's playing up a little bit, I do apologise. Moving on to the next step, we're going to do some bends here. I'm just going to come off that for a second. While my white balance on my camera's sorting itself out, we're going to spend quite a lot of time over the next 4 bars bending the 17th fret of the B string and using the pinky underneath to sort of do this sort of, it's almost like borrowed from, it's a classic rock kind of soloing idea. But what he does is really interesting. So he's going to sort of introduce the idea in the first slide that I'm going to show you, and then he just mashes on it in semiquavers. And it's quite hard to get that kind of stuff really authentic sounding, simply because I'm under the impression that he's improvised that, but he's just thumping away on his guitar, and sometimes they're not always kind of the most, let's call it, politically correct way of playing things, and sometimes it's quite hard to actually capture exactly what they're doing. So let's see if my camera's sorted itself out now. That's good. So over here, I'm going to bend with the ring finger, and then at all of the 17th fret on the high E, I'm putting my pinky underneath it to catch it. So I'm going to bend it, B string, high E string. I'm then going to bend it again here, and I'm going to do 3 more bends. Use the record for a reference there where they all land. It's quite hard here in the room talking about crotchets and quavers. If you hear what they're doing and learn to replicate that. And as I said before, we're moving to semiquavers, 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander, and then for the first beat of the next bar, he's going to do it again there. So you're going to go 1 eander, 2 eander, 3 eander, 4 eander, 1 eander, and then we've got a lick that comes out of it. 1 eander, 2 eander, 3. But it's quite hard for me to talk and do that at the same time. He's just mashing on those, okay? That's sort of the most sort of like scholarly way of me trying to sort of get that down. We're going to come out of this lick by bending the 17, bend it up and down, and then da 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 da. We do a little tweak here, followed by the 17. Where are we now? We are... Oh, we're nearly there. We're nearly there, folks. This lick is an extension of coming out of the other one, so you bend the 17 up and down again, and then pull off to the 15. Middle finger on the 16th fret. And then you sort of back between, you pick the first 17 to 15 and then you pull off the second time. You got some triplet kind of action here between 17 and 14. 17 of the B, 14 of the high E, 17 of the high E. It's kind of one of those, it's played like one of those licks, but it's a funny choice of notes. I'm going to use ring finger for the 17s and index finger for the 14, I think, there. Yeah. And then, of course, because that's what we're doing at this point, you bend that 17, catch the note underneath it. Nearly there. 4 more bars and we're done, guys. So then we go proper up to the dusty end here now. So we're going to bend the 22nd fret. So we're right at the top. Most Gibson guitars have 22 frets. If you're on a Strat, a vintage spec Strat with 21, I apologise, there's not a right lot I can do about it. So I'm going to... Now, what's interesting about being up here You know how I talk about shape 1 minor pentatonic in B minor? This is that, but up the octave. Even with all this access on the SG, provides it's still a little bit of a squeeze. So I'm going to bend the 22nd fret of the high E. I'm then going to play the 22nd fret of the B string. My mistake, I apologise. I'm going to bend that note, and then I'm going to play the 19th fret of the high E. I'm then going to go back to the 22nd and pull off to the 19th, and that creates a little 4-note phrase. It's quite Slash-esque actually. Slash does a lot of stuff like this. And can you see how 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because it's in quaver triplets, we're going to play that lick. We're going to play 12 notes total, but we'll just repeat that 4-note phrase 3 times. And then we're going to do 3 bends on the 22. Like that. And then final bit of this, we're going to walk down the first position of the minor pentatonic, but we're going to add the blue note in as well. So I'm going to bend the note at the very top twice. High E string, 22nd fret, full step bend. I'm then going to play the 19th fret of the same string. I'm going to walk down the scale, 22 and 19 on the string below. That's the B string. I'm then going to add the blue note, which is 22nd fret of the G string to the 21st and then the 19th, all on the G. Yeah? Yeah. I'm then going to go to the root on the 21st fret. I'm over here, look. I'm going to play that with my ring finger and then rock down to the string below. 19th fret, back to the root. I'm then going to drop that down a string. I'm going to bend the 21st fret of the G string. Pinky, I'm going to catch the 21st, and then I'm going to play the 21st as a bend again. Now, if you're really, really on it from that point, you go into the ending. Now, can you see here it says ral? Now, what that means is a ral, I think it's called a rallentando, I think is the technical term. I really struggle with all the Italian words for music. I just forget what they mean because I don't say rallentando. I say it slows down at the end. So what that means is that if you imagine a ral's kind of like, if you imagine a train pulling into a train station, it doesn't do 60 miles an hour or whatever and then immediately stop. It slows down on approach, doesn't it? That's kind of what they're doing on the record. So they're going to play that riff twice. Look, going to do it twice there and finish with a B5. But you'll hear the band kind of almost like slow down, and the more you play into those 4 bars, the slower it gets. It kind of goes. I peaked too early, lads. I peaked too early there. So if I go. Use the record as a barometer for that, okay? It just means it's going to slow down, and then you're just going to play a big fat B5 at the end. And then you play it on the first beat, and then you see all the rests after. You stop. So that's it. That's the whole song. There's a lot there. I think this might be the longest lesson I've ever taught. So, did you make it all the way to the end? Let me know in the comments if you made it through to the end. I would be really, really, really surprised to see how many of you got here. So, there's a full 5-page PDF that gives you the full structure for this song and all of the bits. Please play around with this. If there's a bit you're struggling with and you can superimpose one of the other bits, please do. Go and get this. It took me ages to transcribe for free. I will see you next week for another electric guitar lesson. Thank you so much.